You have been working with Elvis as a musical conductor.
Yes.
During the last years, I think, of his life.
Yes.
You have been working with many big stars, like, for instance, Barbra Streisand. What made you decide to work with him now?
Well, I've had many Elvis impersonators. See, I had been with Elvis when we first opened up at the International Hotel in 1969. And it was a tremendous opening. And since leaving Elvis, I had many impersonators that wanted me to handle them. But I just didn't want to get involved with impersonators, you might say.
Did you, in the beginning, think he was another one?
Well, actually I did, yes. In the beginning, I thought that he was another impersonator. So his people tried to call me many times, and I just refused to even meet with him until one day he came up to my studio and presented himself. And I discovered that that he was very authentic. I mean, all the papers and everything about him was credited and authenticated, and I decided to get involved in his career. And I also found out that he's got a lot of talent.
We'll find that out in a minute.
Yes.
Even though you did a lot of efforts to make yourself believable, you have your passport now, you will have to live with the thought that people always will doubt whether you are his son. Isn't that an awful feeling?
Definitely. It's a very, very hard thing to take. And basically the name does not mean anything. The Presley name is so big. And to me, there was only one great king of rock and roll, one legend. I'm not here trying to take his place, but trying to do my own stuff to come out and face the public with reality. And today, in this stage and era, people can really find out about an entertainer and you know, let the entertainer speak for himself. So what I'm really trying to do is get my own life going and trying to eliminate living in his shadow.
Did you like him when he was still alive and you had no idea who you were? Did you like him as a performer?
He wasn't my idol. I've never idolized him. I idolized Dean Martin and a lot of other entertainers, Liberace and stuff like that. But, you know, since I am who I am, I've got to portray a part of his life, because people walk up to me and they say, well, if you're Elvis Presley Jr., how come your hair is not black? How come you don't have sideburns? How come you don't dress like him and sing his songs and wear his costumes? It was a very, very hard thing to do. It's very hard. So what I'm doing is just trying to satisfy the public. And I am coming out with my own original material. I've done so many original songs, and I've got some playing across Canada right now and some parts of the United States. But breaking the ice to the public to show
well,
them
that's difficult for any performer. Wouldn't you rather break it with your own thing?
It's very hard. As I said earlier, if I come out as myself with my hair combed naturally and everything, people say, well, how come you don't comb your hair like your father? I've tried it. And then they say, why don't you wear his costumes when he sings his songs? And,
about the costume, this belt looks very familiar.
Yeah, this belt here is the original belt from the via satellite in Hawaii. It was thrown in the audience.
He threw it to the audience, I remember that. Yeah.
At the very end of the concert.
Were you there to catch it?
No, no. No, I wasn't there, but I was there to buy it later on through the years when they offered it on a private auction.
Yeah. So, are you in touch with his relatives now?
No,
Did they welcome
not.
you in the family?
I know that a lot of people know about me, and we're not associated, because how do you come up to a person after so many years and say, I'm Elvis Jr., I'm his son? You know, the first thing they do is they look at you and say, you know, do you want something from us?
Do you?
Here?
Do you?
No, I'm not.
You didn't try?
The biggest thing, the biggest gift that was left was the gift to me. Homes, houses, cars, money, jewelry don't mean nothing, because that they can always take that away. It can be sold. But what was left for me was his voice. And I think that's the biggest gift, and that's what I'm trying to use.
Mr. Morris, is he, as a person, anything like Elvis as you remember him?
Well, actually, I think he's got the talent. And as far as being like Elvis, well, Elvis had a very unique thing. Everyone is an individual. Elvis was an individual, and his son is an individual. But Elvis had a great communication and rapport with the audience, and I think that Elvis Jr. has
That's that too.
Has that
I've been
too,
told
yes.
that in his last years, Elvis was very much afraid to face his audience.
Well, actually, if you don't mind, I'll tell you a little story then. When we opened up in 1969 at the International Hotel in Las Vegas, Elvis was very, very big, you know, with the in concerts with the younger people. But this was an audience composed of all the biggest stars in Hollywood and Broadway in New York. And the owner, Kirk Kerkorian, had everything was complimentary for that particular show. So Elvis was kind of nervous backstage. And I said, why are you so nervous? He said, well, I've never really performed for an audience of this magnitude and all these stars. I said, well, I'm thinking of something to alleviate that nervousness, if you don't mind, you know. He says, like what? I said, well, think of everybody out in the audience being nude, and sitting on a toilet seat.
I'm trying to do that right now.
Well, during the show, he turned around to me and he went, okay. And from then on, it was just fantastic. It was just absolutely marvelous, his performance.
Do you, Elvis, find already any of the hysteria around your person that was around his?
Yes, I do, quite a bit when I do the concerts. They vary. Like, we do have pieces of the audience that just go crazy because they want to believe that Elvis is still alive. There's been so many papers written about him, on his life and everything, and people, you know, they read these papers and they say, oh yeah, he's alive, and this we cited him. A lot of stuff comes from different places I've performed, and instead of saying Elvis Presley Jr. is alive, it's Elvis Sr. But you know, I do have a lot of fans come up to me. There's disbelievers sometimes come up, and they want to see the show, and I'm glad that they come to see the show because then they can decide for themselves.
How do you feel about the many impersonators of Elvis that there are? You can hardly top them. Sometimes they're so good.
They're very. There's a lot of impersonators. You're right about that, and I think that they're keeping the memory alive. Most of them are doing a beautiful job, and but so far as impersonators in my life, I'm trying to get away from that.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is a good point to have a look at your father. He tried in his career to get away from it. He did other things that people may not remember. Are you aware of the fact that he once sang in duet with Frank Sinatra?
Yes, sir.
Let's have a look at that.
I love you. Man, that's pretty. And I always will.
Is that the kind of thing you would like? Because you can't go on like this forever, can you?
Definitely, definitely. Hans, I've been performing around the States and Canada for quite a while now, and I did perform with some legends of the past, and we've done concerts together, and it is a great feeling to get acknowledgement from a lot of superstars, you know, stars like, let's say even Red Fox, for instance. You know, we're friends, and he was the first entertainer invited to my father's wedding in 1967. And a lot of entertainers and stars have acknowledged me. And
But there is a danger when you keep on living in the past.
it's very hard. I try to get away from the past because it's a beautiful thing. It's nostalgia to all of us. But what has been, and we're just trying to get back into the future and do things.
Finally, Mr. Morris, is it possible for somebody like him to become an idol like his father was in this time in the 90s?
Yes, it is, but not doing an entirely Elvis show. You see, what Elvis Jr. neglected to say is half of his show, he does his own thing. Mm-hmm. And then when we have him go off stage and change into the costume, the girls do a number and he changes. But he's got a tremendous talent on his own without doing his father's songs.
Well, we hope to see that.
And I might add, too, that when we were at the Desert Inn, the entertainment director there, on the first time in with no publicity, said that he outdrew every entertainer that had appeared at the Desert Inn 3-1. And it was a tremendous, tremendous compliment.
Well,
to
we'd
his
like
talent.
to see that another time, but while you're here, you don't wear this outfit just like that. We'd like to see you in your specialty, in your father's repertoire. Would you do us that favor?
I sure will.